Bases drop Tuesday thoughts. John, hear you there. Oop, let me turn on the there we go. Turn on your grid for the day so we can all find out what we're going to be watching later on. We've got that to get into as we got Champions League. We're going to get into that with the previews. One of the games is going to be starting, I think, toward the end of our show. And it's at Kairat Almaty. And from what I understand, temperatures are going to be minus Fahrenheit, like minus 14 Fahrenheit at kick. Folks were going in yesterday to cover getting ready to cover the match this morning. Easternmost outpost when it comes to the Champions League in and of itself. And I think you're like miles from the Chinese border with Azerbaijan. And it was snow on the ground. It was like minus 28, I'm assuming Celsius. So I had to do a quick conversion. It's like minus 14, minus 16 Fahrenheit. So you got that to get into this morning. We're going to get into all your Champions League previews, get into all the other action that's going on today, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Here's your rundown. Coming up in a little bit, Chris Doran, play-by-play voice of the Columbus Crew. We're going to be discussing their search for a new head coach, what their old head coach did in his first match away, and I imagine that there are going to be folks that are already gripping over the fact that Celtic got blown out by Hearts, and instead of looking at the process, you need immediate results. And oh my God, what's going on here? We've hired the wrong person. We'll get into that with Chris. In addition to everything going on with Crew, season ending obviously prematurely. We'll get into Darlington Nagbe and what he means and what he meant and replacements and all these kinds of things. So we're going to, in a way, we'll kind of start looking at 26 with Chris today. Glenn Davis will be joining us on Thursday because tomorrow and Thursday is when you start your 2025-26 free agency re-entry stuff. And so we'll be getting into that over the next couple of days. So Chris Doran joining us at 9:15. We'll get into all the Crew stuff, maybe some Indiana football. We'll discuss that with what happened and if Fernando Mendoza is, in fact, who he believes is going to win the Crooked Elbow Trophy coming up in New York City in just a little bit. Now, after that, we got a lot of champions to discuss in addition to previewing Champions League. We have a champion in the NCAA on the women's side. We'll get into your couple of key moments there. Jen Hildreth and KCD called that one, which lends me to the idea of KCD. Traditionally, she's here 9:15. But considering she called the match last night with Jen Hildreth after she was at the World Sevens in South Florida, she's probably trying to find her way either smashing a snooze button or trying to get her way to the airport so she can get home. So if KCD is someplace stable for a little bit, she'll be in today. If not, later on in the week when we can discuss everything that's gone on, Sevens and NCAA, et cetera. But we got highlights from last night from the NCAA championship, and Florida State gets the win, but it took them a while. And we'll get into those highlights. We also have champions in the NAIA. Grandview gets the SDH bump. Coach appears, David Groves. You go on to win. We've got highlights of that. Women's side, Kaiser and Cumberlands of Kentucky went to PKs before a winner was decided there. We have put out the siren call for Kaiser to see if they can join us. We've put out the siren call to WVU Tech if they wish to join us, and also with Cumberlands of Kentucky because of the seasons that they all had in the NAIA. We figured we'd reach out to all four, and if anybody wants to hop in, they can hop in. So if you see me duck my head and try to track down emails and stuff, it would be in hour number 2 after we catch up with Chris and we get into championships and all that kind of stuff. So Champions League, championships, NAIA, men's and women's, NCAA last night in the college game. So there's all of that stuff to get into. Major League Soccer, all the news, the latest on Trinity Rodman, latest on World Cup ticket prices. A couple of folks have changed locations. Stephen Cleveland is now in Kansas City. Noah Cobb's purchase option has been picked up by Colorado. And so I think it was $450,000. So Noah Cobb is staying in Colorado now. And that's where we are. So whatever else is on your mind, bring it onto the table this morning. We'll discuss it coming up in just a little bit. So opening kickoff it was Kaiser in PKs, and it was the third championship, I believe it's going to West Palm Beach. But yeah, they went to PKs. We'll have your late action there coming up in a bit. So morning, Alex, morning, Abby, morning, Michael, and morning, David. So let's see. I'm trying to see what's going on. Everybody's saying hello. Uh, and Michael, not a fan of Noah Cobb getting his purchase option picked up by Colorado. So that's where we are. All right. So before Chris Doran comes in here in just a couple of minutes, it's kind of a piece of setup sound. Chris posted a full 4-minute post-match interview with Wilfried Nancy after Celtic got thumped by Hearts. It was 3-0, and people are already gripping, I'm sure. So this is part of that conversation that Wilfried Nancy had in his post-match commentary and in his Q&A with the reporter from Sky Sports Scotland. And here is what Wilfried Nancy was asked about his first match in charge and where things are going forward. This is just the first section of that interview. If you want to listen to the whole thing, Chris has it posted on his 280-character app. But here's the first little bit with Wilfried Nancy to kind of set up Chris as he comes in here in a couple of minutes.
What was your assessment on today's performance and result?
Yes, obviously the result was not what we wanted, but I think that we had a really good first half. We had opportunities to break and also to score goals. I think that we could have done better in terms of the last pass and the execution, but I really like the way we unbalanced them to create chances. And I think that this is something that we're going to be able to work on because it was really interesting. We conceded a goal against the momentum. Again, I think that when I will rewatch the game, we can do better to step up the line. I think that it could be offside, but we didn't do it. After that, we started the second half well, but we conceded the second goal on transition. And after that, when we wanted to come back, I think that we put crosses, but they are strong inside the box. There are numbers inside the box. So I think that we missed a bit of a connection, relation, to be able to create a cross or pass, more pass than cross, and to get more numbers inside the box. So this is something that I'm going to look at because, like I said, the spirit was spot on. We had really, really good moments, but obviously it was not enough. But it was not easy for the player knowing that I came 3 days ago, but the mindset was spot on.
So there you go, Wilfried Nancy in his first post-match press conference. Post-match scrum. It wasn't a presser. It was the post-match scrum where they have the rights holder reporter kind of in the mix zone, and you get a couple of minutes with the coach or players and such, and you have the option of either having a microphone on a stand and asking questions into a headset, or you have the opportunity to have a reporter asking questions. And so reporter for Sky Sports Scotland is asking questions of Wilfried Nancy in the mix zone. And that was the first little bit of that conversation. And of course, the fans of Celtic and Jarrett Smith, our resident Celtic fan, fantastic hire. We cannot speak any more highly of Wilfried Nancy and Celtic wanting to chase after someone like Nancy to be their new head coach. Jarrett is obviously, yes, a Celtic fan, but he looks at things through a different prism than probably 99.9% of your average Celtic fan. Jarrett knows what Celtic is getting with Wilfried Nancy, but Celtic fan that is not named Jarrett Smith is kind of looking at things and going, we lost. The season's over. We're gripping, and, we hired the wrong guy. So patience and context and understanding and implementation of an idea, it's lacking because the board and the previous coaches have made so many poor decisions. And if Atlanta could pick up Dyson Maeda, that would be fantastic. So all of these things in play, and there's that early part of the battling with the extremes. It's like I can guarantee you the next Celtic win, because right now Hearts has played one more match than Celtic, and they're 3 points ahead. Guarantee you after that first win that happens involving Celtic and Wilfried Nancy and all of this, you will have the flip of the extreme, and it's going to be one of those like wow, this was fantastic. Oh my God, what a hire. This is tremendous. I can't believe it. Can you believe it? And this is where we bring in our friend Chris Doran, among other things to discuss. The calmness of the average Celtic fan when it comes to 1 day and 3 days having a coach. Morning, sir. Welcome back. Good to see you, my friend.
John, good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I do want to get into some incredibly insightful topics that I know that a lot of folks want to get into, like Indiana football. I have to ask about Indiana football. We got to get into that in a second because that was from the weekend too. I led into your segment this morning by playing a little bit of the post-match 1v1 that Wilfried had with Sky Scotland. And I was trying to break down to folks to anticipate the slings and arrows that are going to be headed Wilfried Nancy's way. Doesn't matter if he's been there 3 days, doesn't matter if he's been there 3 weeks, months, or years. The extremes of the Celtic fan, we're going to catch it full while we're keeping an eye on Wilfried Nancy. And I love the hire, but I'm just it's going to drive everybody crazy sitting there and looking at the extremes of this thing, even after 3 days of work. And I'm sure everybody's going, this was such a bad idea. What are we doing? That kind of calmness that's always attached to these kinds of things.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of urgency from the Celtic fan base, and I understand that. I think they've been through a lot more unrelated to the new coach.
Oh, yeah.
That perhaps is sort of bleeding over into the experience of welcoming a new gaffer to the sidelines, as they'd say over there. So that has to be considered. But I think you put the finger on exactly what the bigger issue is, and the passion and expectation from the supporters base is extraordinary, albeit some would argue a bit unrealistic, and I think requires a considerable amount of patience when you're even just having the conversation about a new coach. So, we wish Wilfried all the best. I think there was an expectation, though a lot of people thought it would be later, that Wilfried at some point was going to take a jump. And as we've come to find out, for especially some of the members of his staff, but also for him, Celtic has been a club that he has kept an eye on over a long period of time. And for this opportunity to come up is sort of storybook for his career. So good for them.
No doubt. And once again, I'm intrigued. I want him to go over there and just take the league by storm and grab it by the scruff of the neck and sit there. And we can all sit here on this side of the Atlantic and sit there and go, see?
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is what you're getting. But I don't know if folks are going to be that patient. That's just the thing that always gets to me when we talk about stuff on the other side of the Atlantic.
Right.
Because of Wilfried heading to Celtic, that means that Columbus is now chasing after their own new gaffer. And I know that it is supposed to be a worldwide search and all this kind of stuff. I guess when you look at it right now, where is the process? You've got to rush, but you can't be quick, I guess, to paraphrase John Wooden, yeah?
Yeah. I don't think it's unfair to assume that the club has had a short list for some time. In fact, Issa Tall, in a conversation with him, our general manager, not too long ago, a week and a half ago, indicated that it's been an 8-month process for finding a replacement. And really what he means by that is they walked into a room, the decision makers, that is, and they said, all right, who are the top 20? And that's probably where they started. And then they weeded some of those names out, and they got some calls from people that they didn't expect would be available. And now you've got a top 15, a top 12. And then you start making that whittled down process a little more refined. You get the notice that the manager's leaving, and now you have to find your top 8 and start talking real hard about numbers and expectations. So I feel really confident that, the club was not taken by surprise by this at all. Would they have liked it to have, maybe happened in the summer of next year? Sure. But I think this is an ideal situation for the club. In terms of finding candidates, I got confirmation from the general manager that they are hearing from agents, not from individuals, but from agents of individuals who are under contract with other clubs.
Whoa.
And so that becomes a little bit of a difficult landscape to navigate at some point. But I think ownership is committed to continuing what this club is all about. In the DNA of the club is an attacking, entertaining style of soccer that will continue. And if you're a coach who says, you know, I love playing a true four in the back and my wingers stay home and we don't give up any goals, and if we get one, we're fine, you're probably not going to get the second interview with this club.
Yeah.
I don't know how many clubs you're going to get a second interview with unless you're in Germany, but that's probably not going to be a second interview callback.
I just have this vision of Sam Allardyce sending his CV to Isetal all of a sudden. It's just like, oh, you got an opening. Hey, let's figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
When the job came open, we were discussing things down here, and one of the names that was started by Jason, and we're sitting there going, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Yes, hydration is absolutely proper. Yes, we need to do that. Laurent Courtois came across our bow as an idea. And I know that folks might get wrapped up in the failures of jobs past, but we thought that because of that DNA that you're looking for and the successes that he had with Crew 2, that might be somebody that would be toward the front of the line.
Well, first of all, I would clarify that when you use the word failure and Laurent Courtois in the same sentence, you are clearly referring to the Montreal franchise and not to Laurent Courtois himself. Okay. That said, Laurent is thought of very highly in the Columbus market, and I do believe, given his success with Crew 2 and what he was trying to achieve in Montreal, and to some degree was able to take some early and small steps with that group, would probably be a reasonable candidate for this position. There are at least two other individuals within the club who I think also qualify because of their history with the Columbus Crew. Their understanding of the way the team plays and their understanding of the roster would still be very good candidates. So you have three what I would consider in-house candidates right off the bat, which is a really great place to be. You certainly don't want to be hiring in desperation, but if it ever got to that point where, you know, the guys report tomorrow and we still don't have a candidate, you might be able to close the deal for a short period of time with one of those gentlemen. So yeah, I think Courtois is absolutely a possibility. He won MLS Next Pro Cup here in Columbus with the inaugural season of MLS Next Pro, and made it to the final in the second year, you know, with a relatively new group of players. So he knows what he's doing, and within the Crew desire to play, he knows exactly how to make it happen. So yeah, he'd be a reasonable candidate. You know, I think the question becomes more so the roster that's currently in place is a roster that was built with the assumption that, you know, we got Wilfried Nancy probably 4 or 5 years. Let's see if we can continue to keep this talent overlapped and everything. The one thing that we weren't anticipating was Darlington Nagbe retiring, and I'm sure you'll probably want to talk to that. But you take the Darlington Nagbe story out, you still have a core group of championship caliber players who are coming back, and the addition of Wessam Abu Ali, who was only able to play a handful of games in the latter part of the season. So do you need a more veteran coach, someone who knows how to handle these international influences in a locker room? And is Laurent equipped to do that? Maybe he is, you know, maybe he is. I think the conversations with candidates will be very interesting no matter who they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned veteran coaches in this league, and the first name that popped into my head was Peter Vermees, and I'm like,
I know. I know.
I'm like, okay, dude's on the beach, and you know, but my larger question would be, with someone like a Peter Vermees, would he? I mean, he has been the Bill Parcells type. You know, he wants to be in the kitchen, he wants to buy the groceries, he wants to make the meal, and he wants to serve it. I don't know if Columbus would be in a situation where they would want to give the entire kitchen to Peter, or just like, it's like, nah, fam, you're just here to sit there and you know, you're here to help us make the meal. And then, you know, Graham Ramsey's going to sit there and he's going to go, this is awful, you know, one of those kind of things. Would Peter want to dial it back to just one role on the business card?
Yeah, I don't know if he would or not. I don't see the club doing that.
Yeah.
I don't see that. The club doesn't need that. The academy is in really good hands. The second team's in really good hands. There's a reason for that, because the club is one club in the sense that we have this. Talent comes and goes in players, coaches, administrators, leaders, and and what remains the same is the vision that the ownership group has got, and that is that we're going to be very true to our principles. Our core is going to be most important. The facilities have been expanded. I mean, the investment from ownership for the academy right now, John, has been incredible, and the market is supporting the teams. So I don't think that it behooves the club to find somebody who wants to have, as you say, the hands on every plate and every serving glass and piece of silverware in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Does that person influence any of it? Sure. They can come in and request, if you want to stick with the metaphor, they can come in and request something for dinner, but if they get a couple of sides that they don't like, then they're going to have to sit and eat it. Now I'm hungry for more breakfast. So anyway, that's what I would say. I would say, bring someone in who's got the background and understands and embraces the way the club operates as one club, from the academy all the way to the first team.
Chris Doran, longtime voice of the Columbus Crew, hanging out with us as we kind of go out of 25, go into 26, and the timeliness factor of Wilfried Nancy in his first match was what triggered in my brain reaching out to Chris and kind of kicking things off here. All right, let's talk Darlington Nagbe and our buddy Nag Bay here. One of the quietest dudes ever. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm done. It's just like no runway, at least publicly, but that's just not how he operates. And he's like, yeah, end of the season, I'm done. How much of a surprise was it?
I think to the players closest to him, probably not a massive surprise. And I'm talking about Evan Bush, our reserve goalkeeper, but of course a longtime starter for Montreal. Talking about Steven Moreira, who is international for Cape Verde, has won an MLS Cup here. Couple of guys who are still in the league, Teal Bunbury, who was with him at Akron. Those were phone calls that he made early on. And I don't think those phone calls lasted too long until they got to, what are you going to do next? And then, Darlington probably didn't have much in the way of an answer, but he just knew that, this routine of missing my kids' birthdays, this routine of being away from home for 2 or 3 days at a time, and in some cases longer than that, has gotten to be too much. His kids are very much involved. His wife, of course, Felicia, as you know, having covered him when he played in Atlanta, very much involved in community and in activities. They are not sitting at home playing video games. These people are wonderfully participatory in their entire community. It's one of the reasons why the league hates to lose a guy like that, is because he's been honored so many times as being the great humanitarian that he is. And the relationship with Nationwide and Nationwide Children's Hospital in town has just been, a longstanding, I think, model for what professional athletes can do with their local organizations. So when we got the word that he was leaving, it was kind of like, well, he's got that one option year. Why doesn't he just let the club bring him back one more year, make $1 million and leave it at that? But no, he said no. That was it. And I've been told by a number of players that once a player makes a commitment to that decision, they rarely come back. I think Michael Jordan is probably the only one who said, I'm going to come back. But he didn't really retire from basketball, in the sense that he went to baseball and then came back after baseball didn't work out so well.
Yeah, and then had issues hitting a curveball in Birmingham, and it's just, hey, I can hit that. Give me a fastball. I can be a pull hitter in Birmingham, but that's really
yeah.
And then hit 230 or whatever in Birmingham. It's like, no, maybe I need to kind of go back to basketball.
Yeah.
So then when you look at the profiles of contracts and things like that, and trying to figure out the off season and who's in, who's out. You add Darlington to the outs, and you sit there and you look at the roster profile. I'm sitting here and staring at it real quick. let's see, Nagby had an option year. Camacho did not have an option year. His contract was over. Derek Jones has an option year. Lapalainen had an option year going in. Amar Sejdic had an option year going in. Evan Bush was supplemental. He was out of contract. So there were some decisions that needed to be made with supplementals and rosters. Where do things currently stand with the outs and decisions that have to go?
Well, a lot of those decisions have already been made. I don't think Lassi was brought back. I don't have the form in front of me, but Lassi's option to come back was not exercised. They're still talking, I think, to Rudy Camacho and still talking to Evan Bush. And we are of the assumption that Evan will be back for another year to play.
Right.
We had 5 goalkeepers on our roster this past year. Didn't need all 5. But excuse me, I think we'll have 4 on the sheet going into the season. Evan Bush clearly has, if not a Hollywood career in front of him, but Evan Bush has got a coaching career in front of him, and he recognizes that his role is as much a backup as it is a mentor to young goalkeepers like Patrick Schulte, who hopefully plays for the men's national team next summer, and Nico Hagen, who plays for Guatemala. So Evan Bush is a critical part of the puzzle there. It's really it's the core coming back. I mean, there was some concern that Steven Moreira might be declining the option to come back, but Moreira will be back. And then you got Sean Zawadzki, who maybe with the right center back becomes more the midfielder that we had all hoped and thought that he would be when Aidan Morris left.
Yeah.
You have Daniel Gazdag, who's still trying to kind of find his way. Now he'll be able to find his way in a new system, maybe some abbreviated or homogenized system with what he was playing versus what could be played, and give him more success. He's a scoring leader out of Philadelphia, and he struggled within Wilfried Nancy's system. And I felt bad for him because he's a good player, he's a good man, and he's a committed athlete. So, you've got Gazdag, Rossi, and Wessam Abu Ali as your designated players. And Hugo Picard is a U22 initiative. Andres Herrera has been secured for another year on loan from Argentina. So it's a really great looking squad. Now, Max Arfsten may or may not leave. I hope he doesn't. I don't think he should. There has been some interest from other countries for Max. The winger had a career year this year. The one thing I'd say about Max is he's just performed so well for the men's national team. I think it would be in his best interest to be in the States for the next 8 months, get through the World Cup, and if Europe calls, go ahead and take that call. But I think just stay stateside until the World Cup is over.
It's good to have these kinds of discussions about American players where you have leagues on the other sides of oceans knocking on doors, wanting players in Major League Soccer here in Major League 2.5, 3.0. And I think the evolution of someone like a Max Arfsten, what's it been like to see his game evolve and mature to where he is the integral part that he was with Crew, but now also being a part of things on the national team?
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, if you go on social media, it can be a little bit of a downer. I don't think that there are as many supporters for Max overall in the men's national team social media sphere, but you take that with a grain of salt. They all think they know something. We know what Max can do. We know how dangerous he is. We know what a great talent he has become in the last he came in 2023. 2023. So it's only been 3 years. He's phenomenal. He really is. And he's a great interview. And obviously Pochettino and his staff love him because of his versatility and the fact that he doesn't give up and he can put a full 90 in. So I think, obviously the joy here in Columbus to see him be so successful is overwhelming. And to see him succeed on the national stage as having logged the most assists all season long for the Red, White, and Blue is tremendous. He's a finalist for Young Men's Player of the Year with the men's national team. So, all those things are great. They look terrific for him. National stage, international stage next year. And then, probably a hop off to Europe. We would certainly understand that. And we would still love him when he comes back.
When it comes to the roster holes as you currently see them, how many of them do you feel will be filled by homegrowns getting more minutes and becoming more confident within the system and within the identity there in Columbus? And how much outside shopping do you think the front office is going to do?
That's a good question. I think the crew leadership has always done a terrific job of balancing those two exercises, identifying talent from within, making sure that their timing in terms of their arrival to the first team is appropriate, and then rewarding them for the work that they put in on the first team level. When it comes to international talent, a really great scouting group throughout Europe and South America. And I think the priorities going into this off season, well, we've been told as much from Issa Tall, the general manager. It's a center back type role. It's a midfielder type role, and support up top. So that about fits with what we've been sort of, I won't say struggling with, because Sean Zawadzki's been more than efficient as a center back, but now that Nagbe's gone, to have that warrior in the midfield like a Sean Zawadzki would be ideal, I think, for the black and gold, and to bring in a bigger presence as a center back, I think, would be ideal as well.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I was alluding to, was the hashtag Nagbe replacement. Because we had that in Atlanta, is like, oh, well, so he's a Nagbe replacement. Well, no, not really. He might be a midfielder in name, but not a midfielder, a Nagbe-ish like in activity. And so that's kind of what folks have to kind of grasp when it comes to
Isn't that funny, John, how folks expect a like for like replacement, and you don't often get that.
Yeah, I mean unless everything is static, and that's the thing. It's not everything is static in a constantly changing environment. It's
right.
Like, I mean, look, you and I have been hydrating this morning with our various beverages, and just because we sit there and we have the beverage, you think that things are going to stay the same. No, it's not the same amount of liquid that's in the glass. We're going to sit there and we're going to hydrate with it. We're going to become caffeinated, but the amount of caffeine beverage decreases. It doesn't stay static. As much as we'd love for it to, it doesn't stay that way. Bless you.
Thank you.
No worries. Let's see. Indiana football. We got to get into this. Kurt Signetti don't take nothing from nobody. I think that if he could do it his way, he just like, I swear, when he was getting the questions about being the number 2 seed or whatever in the CFP, and he's kind of sitting there and he's looking at the microphone, he's like, boy, do I really have to stand here as we're going to break? I mean, I love what he's doing there.
He's really something. He's got quite the attitude. Do you, as a broadcaster, sort of say to yourself, I don't know if I could pull that off if I were him?
I know. I mean, I'd love to sit there and say that somebody gives me a question and I'd be kind of sitting there. I couldn't. As much as I'd like to be frank and honest, sometimes you're biting your tongue and the blood's coming out of the corner of your mouth. And you have to give the answer that you have to give instead of the answer that you want to give. Sometimes,
right?
Signetti, he's just like, nope. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you what I think. Just make sure that you're prepared. That's the biggest thing. Just be prepared with your questions and have a backup, because he's like 7 seconds, second question. Do I really have to be here? Third question, 30 seconds, and I'm gone.
What I love about it is when they do the pregame interview, sideline reporter will ask one question. He is partially turned away by the end of the sentence. He's
out.
Walking.
And that's why I'm like, I've had to deal with that before, where coaches would be like, I'll give you my response, like yes, no, maybe. It's an open-ended question that I give. It's not a closed-ended question. That's one of the first things that we always learn. Give an open-ended question. I give these coaches open-ended questions, and they're still like 7 seconds, and I'm out the door. You can see the contrails from these coaches at times. Signetti's willing, he's just out the door. Is Mendoza getting your Crooked Elbow Award in New York City?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of college football. We live in the heart of Ohio State country.
Oh, yes.
And love it. I just love the spirit for Ohio State football and athletics in general.
So then is Julian Sayin going to get it? Then I guess is what I should say.
Well, I would just say that I'm couching my answer. We are also, I'm a 30-year former resident in Bloomington, Indiana. So IU is and a graduate. So IU is at the heart of who I root for. And I can tell you that watching the Big Ten championship game for my wife and I was just a really surreal experience, because we had both teams competing for the title. We understand the passion in our market for Ohio State football, and I wouldn't say that Julian Sain probably gets the Heisman. I would say Jeremiah Smith is an extraordinary athlete, and I'm a huge fan, having watched him the last couple of years. But Mendoza coming on the scene the way he has, and endearing himself the way he does to the camera, whether you like it or not, I think has played very, very well in his favor when it comes to deciding who takes that trophy.
Yeah, I mean, he cut the promo after the game, and everybody was sitting there going, "Yeah, that's about as babyface a promo as you can get." And I was waiting. It's like, okay, there's your quote, and there's your T-shirt from home field. Like, give it 35 seconds. What is next on the rundown for you? Do you actually get time to just kind of chill and take it easy for a little bit?
Not really. We're going to go ahead and monitor what comes from the Ohio Health Performance Center in the way of news. My thought was probably another 2 weeks, but I truly think that I think Isatal has been well ahead of this news that we had to put up with over the last couple of weeks, and I'm confident that before we get to let's say before we get to New Year's Day, we're gonna have a confirmation. But I truly think before Christmas, there's going to be confirmation of a candidate.
No doubt about it. And it's going to be great to follow along with you. I can't thank you enough for dropping by and starting our education toward the 26th season with all of the topics that come through, and the education on Wilfried Nancy for the folks that may not get it. That's why I knocked on your door and I'm like, can you please help explain what's going on here?
John, you're terrific. I love your show, and thanks so much for having me, and Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Merry Christmas back at you, sir. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, Chris Doran, longtime play-by-play voice, Columbus Crew, hanging out with us. One of our A-listers, and he's got the key, so he knows he can crash at any time. He's like, yeah, John, I've got breaking news. I need to come in. Just one of those kind of things. Chris has that much sway here. Literally, he can come in the door. It's like, dude, I'm gonna text you something real quick, and you need to kind of keep it under your hat, and then I'm gonna come on the show. See, perfectly fine. You can do those kinds of things. That's just how this is. But it's really cool to have friends like Chris and come in. Like I said, Glenn Davis is coming in on Thursday, and we can kind of catch up toward 25 and 26 and have this information here. But yeah, I figured with the Nagbe retirement and the Nazi first match and people gripping over losing 3-0 to the team that's currently top of the ladder. It was one of those things that, I had to kind of bring him in and kind of explain what's going on. So we know what's coming, and we know what's coming, and we know what's coming. So that's kind of where we were. But no, it's very, very cool to have somebody like Chris that we can knock on the door and sit there and go, yo, dude, can you come in and help us explain something here? So Crew 101 with Chris Doran. So that was really cool this morning. Once again, thanks for dropping by, as you always do. And let me catch up with all of you guys and see who's dropped in. Let's see. Abby dropped in, and Ricky's dropped in this morning. And so thanks to everybody once again last night who was with us for the chaos that was soccer over there, and how things continue to proceed with that and with the Champions League. So right now, before we get into the other champions of champions that happened yesterday, NCAA and NAIA, let's get into Champions League today, and we'll go through the matches, and we'll let you know what's going on there and all of the juice boxes and the standings and all that kind of stuff. And so once again, we mentioned that the first match on the board is going to be coming up in short order because it's on the other end of the planet, basically. And it is with Champions League in and of itself. Remember, it's a different format, and it is groups. It is it's not the group stage, but it is league phase is what they're calling it. So league phase is where we are. And it's 9 matches today, 9 matches tomorrow. And we'll get into, I'll give you all the numbers for the next 2 days, but obviously we'll kind of go over what happened yesterday. We'll go over what happened on Tuesday and Wednesday on Thursday's show. Wednesday, don't know if there's going to be a show or not. I've got to do some things at Mercedes-Benz. And there might just be content that's posted. We'll let you know, and we'll keep you posted, obviously. We're catching up with the folks from Vancouver, and as a host city in 2026 as that series continues. and we're getting to catch up with them. They had a dedication yesterday of one of their first practice pitches for Legacy, and it's going to be used there. And so that was a big deal where it was Kentucky bluegrass and rye, and it was laid in place, and it's going to be a part of their Legacy project in Vancouver. So we're going to discuss that with them. That's going to be later today, and we'll have that available for you tomorrow and down the line. So just keep an eye out on your socials, and it might just be content that's released tomorrow instead of a live show. And be back at it Thursday with Glenn Davis from Houston. We'll discuss World Cup with Glenn. We'll discuss Dynamo with Glenn, and we'll discuss all the other things that pop into our head with Glenn. He's going to bat leadoff on Thursday, and then the Power Hour is going to be the same with Nino and Nico on Thursday as well. And then on Friday, once again, we'll see if we can catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. Might be catching up with our friend Kacey D, considering she might be, like I said, she might be stuck in an airport or still might be in a hotel after what happened last night with the NCAA Women's Championship. Highlights of that coming up in just a little bit. So, okay, here is your Champions League rundown for today. Champions League rundown for today starts at 10:30. And once again, Kairat Almaty going up against Olympiacos. Olympiacos, remember, that's attached to our friend Evangelinas Marinakis. And Kairat Almaty is a big underdog, and it is playing home matches at the Astana Arena. And so in Astana, Azerbaijan, I want to check the weather here, because the weather yesterday, when we were talking about it this morning, it was supposed to be like minus 14. And so Astana, Azerbaijan. Oh, Kazakhstan. Sorry. So Kazakhstan. My bad. All right. So Astana, Kazakhstan. So in 45 minutes, right now, it is minus 6 degrees. Wind chill is minus 28. Light snow showers and a high of 5, and an anticipated low of minus 15. So literally right now, it's kind of a light snow shower. 5 is going to be the high. Right now, it's minus 6, according to our friends at the Weather Channel. So that's what they're playing in. I imagine it's going to be something akin to the orange ball. So we'll see what it looks like. But they're playing, and the reason they're playing at Astana is because Astana is turf. They're not going to be playing on grass in snow showers and minus 5 degrees. It's going to be on turf. And so Kairat Almaty is a big underdog at a plus 571. Olympiacos is a minus 213. Give me at least the draw here. Kairat Almaty's defense has been stout. It's minus 5 degrees. They don't care. Olympiacos probably does and doesn't want anything to do with conditions. So 10:30 kick, and it's going to be on Paramount Plus. Kairat Almaty hosting Olympiacos. Take at least the draw there at a plus 354. If you're really brave, I'd say the plus 571 for Kairat Almaty and the win. 12:45, you're one early. Bayern Munich hosting Sporting. Bayern Munich a minus 417. Sporting almost a plus 1,000. They're at a plus 982 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. 90-minute draws a plus 560. All the other matches, 3 o'clock. Atalanta and Chelsea. Atalanta is a big underdog at home at a plus 229. Chelsea's a plus 118. Barcelona and Eintracht Frankfurt. Barcelona right now is a minus 625, and they're going to be playing in the new camp, but it is going to be a limited number of spectators. They still don't have the whole thing completed to specs and to observation and administration. So it's going to be limited house at the new camp. Barcelona a minus 625, Eintracht Frankfurt a plus 1275. Inter and Liverpool. Internazionale and Liverpool. Inter's an even money favorite at a plus 100. Remember, no Mo Salah. Former teammates and other folks are coming down on Mo Salah's side in all of this. They're players, I would imagine that would be the case. You're going to back your teammate, former teammate, or what have you. So Liverpool is a plus 260 on the road at Inter. Monaco, minus 102, hosting Galatasaray at a plus 250. PSV is a plus 191, a home underdog to Atletico de Madrid at a plus 127. Royal Union, a plus 199 at home, hosting Marseille at a plus 134. And Royal Union has to play at Lotto Park because of the capacity that they don't have in their building. The other one at 3 o'clock right now is Spurs minus 222 hosting Slavia Prague, who's north of plus 600. We'll go into the standings in a second. Tomorrow, Karabag favored at home against Ajax at a plus 106. Villarreal favored against FC Copenhagen at a minus 250. Athletic Bilbao, a dog, hosting PSG at a minus 159. Newcastle on the road at Bayer Leverkusen, favored at a plus 131. Benfica, plus 136, hosting Napoli at a plus 214. Club Brugge, a plus 7.25, hosting Arsenal at a minus 286. Dortmund, a minus 370, hosting Bodo Glimt at a plus 884 in the composite. Juve hosting Paphos from Cyprus. Juve minus 625, hosting Paphos at a plus 1626. Real Madrid hosting Manchester City. Manchester City slight favorite on the road at Real Madrid at a plus 144. Real Madrid a plus 166, and your draws a plus 281. So let's get you into the standings and let you know right now. Arsenal at the top of the ladder. They've won their first 5. They've only given up 1 goal. PSG, they have the 1 loss to Bayern. Both of them are at 12 points. PSG's got the better goal difference. Remember last time out, Bayern lost at Arsenal 3-1. Inter has less goals scored, and that's why they're in 4th. Last time out, they lost to Atletico de Madrid 2-1. Real Madrid is at 5th place right now. Once again, they've got 12 points behind in goal difference, and that's why they're in 5th. Bunch of teams at 10 points. Goal difference and or goals scored is the decider. Dortmund, Chelsea, Sporting, Manchester City, who lost last time out, and Atalanta, they're all at 10 points. Remember, the first 8, they advance just on the fact that they were the first 8. And then you get into the whole playoff spots from 9 to 24. Newcastle's at 9 points, ahead of Atletico de Madrid and Liverpool on goal difference, along with Galatasaray. Goals scored, Atletico de Madrid, Liverpool, Galatasaray, 12, 13, 14. PSV, Spurs, Bayer Leverkusen, they're all at that. Spurs and Bayer Leverkusen at 8 points. I was looking at goal difference and freaked out for a second. Barcelona's at 7. Karabag is at 7. They've lost 2 of 3, though. Napoli's at 7. Marseille is at 6. Goal difference has them ahead of Juve, who's in 22nd, by the way. Monaco, Paphos, right there. If it started today, that's your 24. 6 points, minus 3 in goal difference. Royal Union out. Club Brugge out. Bilbao would be out. Eintracht Frankfurt, FC Copenhagen, Benfica, Slavia Prague, Bodo Glimt, Olympiacos, Villarreal, Kairat Almaty, and Ajax. Those would be your ones that are out. No real surprises in that group at present. So Juve had to win last time out because they were at 3 points and toward the bottom of the standings. So they won last time out. That rocketed them to 22nd. So that's where we are in league phase right now with Champions League. Once again, everything there is kicking in at 10:30. Kairat Almaty and Olympiacos. So that's the that's the early one for those of you that want to kind of watch toward the end of the show and have one experience going on while you're hanging out with us. So PSV and Atletico de Madrid is on CBS Sports Network at 3 o'clock. Unimas has Bayern and Sporting. Barcelona and Eintracht Frankfurt's at 3 o'clock on Univision. English Championship is going on at Paramount Plus, 2:45 and 3 o'clock. And they also have, once again, all of the action in Champions League, all 9 matches, 10:30, 12:45, 7 at 3 o'clock. ESPN Deportes has St. Pölten and Juve at 12:45, Real Madrid and Wolfsburg at 3. Then Fox Deportes has the same. ESPN Deportes, once again, why are you listing them twice? ESPN Plus had the A-League this afternoon and UEFA Champions League with Arsenal and FC Twente at 3 o'clock. And this is Women's Champions League. Paramount Plus has UEFA Champions League once again. Real Madrid, Arsenal, PSG, and Leuven at 3 o'clock. St. Pölten and Juve at 12:45. So that's the rundown of what to watch, how to watch it, and where to watch it for today. So once again, men's and women's Champions League. So if you heard a matchup that was kind of goofy to your ears, men's and women's Champions League is going on today. So just so we're all square on that. So once again, it was just one of those where, yes, some of the teams are the same, but the rivalries are not. So just to be in the interest of fairness, 4 matches today, league phase in the Women's Champions League. St. Pölten, big underdog at home, hosting Juve, who's a minus 667. 3 o'clock, Arsenal hosting FC Twente at a minus 1,000. PSG hosting Leuven at a minus 556. Real Madrid and Wolfsburg, your matchup of the afternoon on the women's side for Champions League. Real Madrid a minus 108 at home. Wolfsburg a plus 218. Your draws a plus 279. And Champions League on the women's side is the same. They have 18 competitors as opposed to what the men have. So right now the top 4 go. Barcelona, Lyon, Wolfsburg, Manchester United currently. Bayern Munich out on goal difference. Then they would go into the play-ins, the 5 through the 12. Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Juve, Atleti, Arsenal, Leuven, who's 11th, Paris FC, who's in 12. Then the ones who would not be qualified as of today, Vålerenga, Twente, FC Twente, Benfica, Roma, St. Polten, and PSG. PSG, by the way, has lost their first 4 matches in the tournament. They've only scored 3 goals. They've given up 11. PSG dead last in Women's Champions League. So I just thought that was interesting with everything that was there. So other couple of things that I wanted to get into newsy-wise before we get into college soccer here in hour number 2. The idea, and we haven't had the chance really to discuss this a whole lot, and it has to do with the Trinity Rodman situation and where things currently stand when it comes to her contract, a new contract, what it could be, and the disagreement in between the union and the league and the agent and all of that. So Meg Linehan came out with a piece that was yesterday afternoon. So quoting Commissioner Jessica Berman at the time, before the NWSL championship, we want those top players here in the NWSL, particularly we want Trinity in the NWSL. Then Berman rejects a proposed 4-year multi-million-dollar contract agreed to by both the Spirit and Rodman that would have kept her in the league without overhauling salary cap or introducing any new rules. And so the NWSL said Washington's deal violated the spirit, in quotation marks, of the league's rules, and according to a grievance filed by the NWSLPA on Rodman's behalf on December 3rd, accused the player of salary cap circumvention. So the NWSLPA filed the grievance once again last week, arguing the league violated at least 5 different sections of the current CBA when it vetoed the 4-year multi-million-dollar deal. And so the Athletic / Meg Linehan got a copy of the grievance. So Trinity Rodman signs a 4-year deal for $1.1 million back in 2022. That was her rookie deal. Ends at the end of this year. And so obviously with everything that is going on, she's going to be a free agent. And we had let everybody know that DC Power over in the USL Super League, and I'm saying it seriously because this is a serious story, DC Power and teams outside the United States are interested in Trinity Rodman. So then the contract negotiations get to Jessica Berman's desk, as right now the league's current salary cap has restricted Washington from offering a deal competitive to DC Power and to overseas. So according to the NWSL complaint, Rodman agreed to the Spirit's proposed terms, which would have backloaded compensation into the final 2 years of the deal, 28 and 29, when the salary cap gets to $4 million a club. The current media rights deal expires in 27. New deal you would anticipate would have more money attached to it than the one currently is there. And then that, therefore, it would impact the salary cap. PA grievance states that backloading compensation is within the CBA and the NWSL competition rules. Now, the document states that the NWSL cited the spirit of the competition rules as a reason to reject the contract offer. Grievance's main argument on Rodman's behalf is that by rejecting the proposed contract, the NWSL engaged in a, quote, flagrant violation of Rodman's free agency rights. NWSLPA exec director Megan Burke told Linehan, quote, comes down to a very simple premise. If they can mess with Trinity Rodman's free agency rights, they can mess with anyone's, and we won't stand for that, end quote. Burke stressed that she believes the proposed contract between the Spirit and Rodman falls both within the rules of the CBA and the league's own competition and roster rules. League has 14 days from the date of the grievance filing, which was the 3rd, so they have until the 17th, to sustain or deny it in writing. Without a response, a grievance committee of one league rep and one players association rep reviews the situation, and then if there is no resolution, it goes to arbitration. The grievance flagged a section, for those of you following along, it's section 13.6, as one of the main sections covering free agency payments, timing, options, and opt-outs. Quote, a player's free agency rights as set forth herein supersede any other inconsistent NWSL rules, regulations, handbooks, or competition guidelines. Exact figures for the proposed salary for each of the 4 years, though the annual average would be significantly over $1 million, felt it was competitive with inbound offers from European clubs. League sources said the NWSL would approve $1 million per year a deal immediately if that was presented. League spokesperson told Linehan, goals to ensure the very best players in the world, including Trinity, continue to call the league home. We'll do everything we can, utilizing every lever available within our rules to keep Trinity Rodman here. CBA provides specific numbers on a year-by-year basis for the base salary cap for each team. Final line of the section states that the base number shall be increased by the team revenue share from the prior league season. So it's unclear how to determine an exact number for the salary cap would be above 4.7. And that would also include increases from the team revenue share. Megan Burke also cites a safety valve in the CBA in case a proposed contract did not correctly estimate the final salary cap numbers. According to the competition manual, and I know there's a lot of legalese here, teams are allowed one buyout of a player's standard player agreement with the league, quote, with no impact to their salary cap from the point of the buyout, end quote. If the Spirit were unable to pay Rodman and meet the salary cap from 2028 moving forward, they would have a mechanism to resolve it in real time. And so as a union, they want to make sure everybody's got a level playing field, and that was where Megan Burke's quote was, you know, if you can mess around with Trinity Rodman in her free agency, then they can put the thumb on the scale of any player's contract negotiation. So that's where the concern is. Structure of the deal would provide Washington with an unfair advantage in competition, and that the proposed salary would make it unfeasible for the Spirit to field a team in 28 and still be salary cap compliant. According to Linehan, the league has yet to cite a rule or section of the CBA that the contract as proposed violated. NWSL might think the Spirit are making a nonsensical decision, and they may be right, according to Meg. Still the Spirit's call to make, and if they can't meet the 2028 cap in time by the time it rolls around, then the league can step in. And once again, we mentioned DC Power. We mentioned all the European clubs. Her agent was on CBS Mornings last week. Mike Sinkowski said potential avenues offered greater value than the deal she'd agreed with the Spirit before it was vetoed by Berman and the league. Trinity Rodman really hasn't said a whole lot. She's disappointed over the latest turn of events. She wanted to go back to play in D.C. in front of the fans, continue to work with Michelle Kang, and be a part of the league, according to Sinkowski, the agent. So once again, you're staring at that 2028 salary cap adjustment. The league source said that the deal assumes unrealistic growth not realized by any other league. So Rodman, apparently eager to stay. Now the league's opened up an opportunity for European clubs to knock on her door. The league has already faced, according to Linehan, the narrative of an exodus of talent to Europe. But the Rodman case is different than, say, Naomi Girma or Alyssa Thompson, both of whom departed the NWSL for Chelsea. While Rodman told ESPN earlier this year she would, quote, kick herself if she didn't play overseas before she retired, it was not an immediate plan. League until now at least wasn't actually in competition with the Champions League or Life in London. And so if you were to keep Trinity Rodman, once again, you're looking at the future of the league down the line. And Trinity Rodman was at the top of the ESPN press release when it came to 2025 viewership. NWSL Championship broke a million viewer barrier, 1.184 million viewers. Washington's attendance has risen year over year since the move to Audi Field. 8 others this season saw higher than average attendances when the Spirit were in town. So once again, NWSL operates at a single entity status, kind of like Major League Soccer. So the league allows itself to have final say on every player contract. League has attempted to use the concept before when it came to, say, the contract of Olivia Moultrie in years past. But then the judge ends up in the Moultrie case writing in the preliminary injunction, separate economic entities competing for player rights. That's what the teams function as. And so a lot of safety valves in the competition manual. No maximum salary set by the CBA. The Spirit want to take that risk in keeping Trinity Rodman around. And so the Spirit want to come to the table with this idea, and so now the NWSL has to navigate it. And this is me just being kind of dime story, when it comes to administering things. I would look at it this way. When you have an idea about Major League Soccer and you wanted to bring in someone like Lionel Messi, what did you do? You got very, very creative. The question then would be, okay, how do we keep Trinity Rodman? I would think the way to do that would be some kind of Lionel Messi-like deal where it's not just salary. It would be salary and NIL. So with all of the advertisers that I would imagine would want to hop into the NWSL, if there are some that aren't already there, that could have an impact in a market space that isn't currently occupied. And I'm just using this as an example. So Messi, we've seen him on ads for Lowe's. So Lowe's gets in the door of the Major League Soccer fan with Lionel Messi helping out in a parking lot, Moss, that commercial. What could prevent the NWSL from doing the same kind of a deal? Is Trinity Rodman, by comparison, the NWSL's version of Lionel Messi, to try and keep an individual, or to gain an individual, or to keep an individual? Could you, under the current construct of the league, do something like what Major League Soccer has done with Lionel Messi, where it is a bunch of different things? You have your base salary, you have your DP status, you're up to the cap to a certain point, then you're in with compensation added to north of $20 million. Could you do the same thing? And I'm asking this because I don't know. Could you do the same type thing with Trinity Rodman if you're the NWSL, where you come up with base salary, something akin to a DP status, where she only counts X amount of dollars toward the cap, and then do the NIL in behind it, so her compensation package is greater than the salary piece? That to me would seem like something that could come to the table if the NWSL was still unsure of itself and unsure of wanting to have Washington completely and totally just backload a salary and then try to get to 2028, and whatever that salary figure is, could you afford it and the roster when you have the salary cap increase per club? For me, that's what I would think about. Could you do something above and beyond when it comes to Trinity Rodman? Could you sit there and go, okay, let's do this. Then how about this? So you get your salary, you get it maxed out to a point. Here's the cap number. Okay, fine. So we've gotten this far. How do we get to the rest of this compensation package where it's amenable to both the NWSL through their bylaws and the CBA with its collective bargaining agreement and the NWSLPA? So that to me would seem to be a solution, or at least a talking point that you could have in the hermetically sealed, glass-walled, rectangular conference room with the equally glass table and all the easy chairs. And the closed door, and you have the hermetically sealed room for negotiations. So that to me would be something to look into. If you could do something above and beyond, something salary DP to the edge of your cap space, and then, or to a certain amount of cap space, and then NIL above and beyond. NWSL wants to keep Trinity Rodman. Washington wants to keep Trinity Rodman. DC Power want Trinity Rodman. Europe wants Trinity Rodman. So what do? You try to keep Trinity Rodman. So I'm just saying, work three-dimensionally here a little bit. Try to play a little bit of Vulcan chess and try to figure out how to keep an individual that you want to keep. So for me, I would propose that. That is now in the ether, and that, like I said, that is an idea literally that as I was trying to figure out what to do in a situation like this, I figured, why not make it one of those situations where it ends up as the version of Lionel Messi. I mean, this might be Christopher Columbus to the New World when it comes to the NWSL. I don't know. Try to figure out something imaginative in three dimensions to keep a player that you want to keep so your league continues to grow. Yes, your clubs are spending record transfer fees and bringing players in. And you're seeing the growth of the game. KCD has covered the game all season long. Jen Hildreth has been a voice for it for a long time. Just Charman's been a voice for it. They've all seen it. So what do you do to try to keep a player? I think you have to use your imagination a little bit. Okay. She's walking in an airport. This is the fun part. We're going to try and figure out where KCD actually is and if things can behave long enough so we can discuss things with her while she is either transferring flights or trying to figure out where her flight actually is and maybe where her luggage is. So we're going to find out where in the world is KCD and bring her in. This is the beauty of live TV. So KCD, where do you be?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi.
Where are you?
I'm in LaGuardia Airport right now. I'm so glad I could join you guys still. I've just landed from Kansas City all the way to LaGuardia.
And you're heading home.
Not yet. I have a personal trip here with some friends for 2 days. But I was supposed to be for 3 days, but I got put on the national championship game. So I cut it a day short and then still came out here to New York.
So what's that phone call like? You're down there at the World Sevens, and then all of a sudden, hey, we need you in Kansas City.
Well, I was doing the studio show in the semifinals for the College Cup, and then basically that night they were like, hey, what are you doing Monday? Before I even took off for the World Sevens. So I said, absolutely, I will be back. And so we rearranged travel, figured that all out, and then I headed back. So yeah.
So we'll take it in a minute at a time. What was it like at the World Sevens to see all that happen?
Oh, it was so much fun. I've got my World Sevens shirt on right now as I'm traveling. It was great. It was just such a good time for players. You could tell the fans loved it, but even just the players, just a different type of setting that they were able to enjoy playing, but still an elite level of football, which was just awesome to see.
And then you hop on a flight and you get stuck in St. Louis. Is that correct?
I do. So I leave World Sevens right after the final. They're doing the awards. Jess Charman and I are actually hopping in an Uber to get to the airport because she had to leave too to go home. And I got a 2.5 hour delay in Fort Lauderdale. Missed my connection by like 30 minutes in St. Louis. I did it on purpose in case I needed to get a rental car and drive. Didn't have to do that. Stayed overnight. Got into Kansas City yesterday morning, and then, well, actually I got there about 1 p.m. and had to go get a new outfit, all the girl stuff because I didn't pack enough for another broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Got to the hotel at 1 p.m. and then called the game at 6 p.m. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
After it's time for you to go and catch your connecting flight or catch your Uber or what have you, so you can go and have fun for 2 days, we are going to play the highlights of the two key moments. One, the goal late with 3 minutes to go, and then the late VAR with 13 seconds to go. We have those highlights, and I'm going to push them until when you're gone, so we have some time to let it breathe. But what was it? Was it 87 minutes of chaos with no goals, or how would you describe it?
I just completely cut out. Sorry about that.
No worries. Subscribe. Minutes of what was the
Well, what I did hear of that was the chaos piece that we saw in the goal. Unbelievable. Stanford looked really good early. Just unbelievable. And in it, the MVP game, got the national championship. I thought she was really the player for that.
And you've also stayed, who I believe is wasn't be really like live TV. Nothing like live TV. There it comes. Hang on just a second. She's fighting it. Good on her. She's fighting it hard. Here we go.
Fighting through.
Change of cells.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. My follow-up question has to do with a freshman keeper who wasn't all that busy, but then got really busy in the title game.
Oh, she was unbelievable. And, that was a mid-season switch as well. O'Keene was not starting the year off. She actually wasn't even the top-ranked freshman goalkeeper coming into Florida State this year. And so to have that change in the middle of the year, and then also Florida State just wouldn't have been in this game if it wasn't for her. She made those critical saves early on. An unbelievable performance. And I know you got to be happy, by the way. Let's not forget that. I got to give you some kudos as well for your Seminoles pulling it out.
We're finally winning something, and I give Jameis Winston a lot of credit on social media for reminding everybody that the most winningest football team over the last decade was that one that you saw yesterday and not the one that I'm used to seeing on Saturdays these days.
Thank you, Jameis Winston. I love recognition for women's soccer. Love that. That's awesome.
Then walk me through the late, and like I said, we have your and Jen's call on the late VAR, the 13 seconds left, but that was one of two VAR late that they had to sift through?
It was. In the semifinal game, there was a potential handball, and it was judged that it actually went off Heather Gilchrist's body first and then into the hand. The controversy behind it was that there weren't a lot of looks to the general public and even to the broadcasters that showed that, but that was what the referee said. If it hadn't gone off her body, her hand was extended, it would have been a penalty given. The one yesterday, last night, same thing. But with some of the looks that we had going on, it was hard to tell who had contact. Someone had contact with Charlotte Kohler in there, but because it wasn't on the field called, got to have that indisputable evidence to overturn it. And in both of those instances, the referee didn't feel like he had that.
And I give Rashawn Brown a lot of credit, the man in the middle, because it wasn't one of those, the 13 seconds left VAR, where there wasn't a whole lot of time that he stared at it and looked at it. It wasn't like a 3-minute debate like we've seen in other leagues. I think it was like a minute 15 total. It was locked in. They came up with a decision, turned around, and made the decision. They're late.
Exactly. They did a good job with it. That's the last thing you want at any point in the game, but especially in the last 13 seconds. They were looking at two things. One, did she get to the ball first? And two, who had the impact on her? She did have a teammate around her as well. We didn't get a full explanation on it, but he was very decisive, and I liked seeing that out of him.
Okay. Let me go to Major League Soccer since I've got you. And
Sure.
you did not cause that alarm that's going on behind you, by the way.
No, I didn't. I don't know where that's coming from. I'm in my nice little bubble here in my headphones, so I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Major League Soccer, no real surprise that Inter Miami ends up as your champ. I know that you got to cover a lot of the Eastern Conference this year. Vancouver comes in, and we played the triple post. I think that with a match at 1 and Vancouver in the ascendancy, I think that if you don't hit 3 posts in 4 seconds and that ball goes in, I think that we're talking about something different. But it was the crowning moment for Alba, Busquets, Messi, the Gulfstream Galacticos, RDP, all of them.
Oh, it was. And I'm really happy with the way everything ended up there. That's been such a big thing down in Miami since David Beckham got on board, started that off, the vision. As a fan of the game, love Busquets, love Jordi Alba. We all know I love Messi. I talk about him all the time. I'm a huge Messi advocate. So I'm really glad they pulled it out. I like throughout the year, they got more balance into their defending. When they brought Rodrigo de Paul in with the back line getting better, then you have the emergence of Silvetti and Allende. I just think that there was a lot of really nice storylines from Inter Miami this season. So it was good to see them pull it off.
And anyone who'd like to, once again, write the apology note to Javier Mascherano, just go right ahead and do it. Did we get you out in time? Where's your Uber?
I have not called it yet because I was going to give you this time without having to rush too much. But I probably have like 2 more minutes till I got to go.
All right. So what's next for you now that the sevens are over and the College Cup is done on the women's side? What's next for you?
Nothing. I am off the books from a work perspective. I'll probably go to the Men's College Cup semifinals on Friday. They're in Cary. I'm just down the road. So I'll probably do that. Can't get enough soccer. I've got a trip actually out to Como with one of my best friends, Heather O'Reilly. She's the head of women's football over in Italy. So I'm going to go with her for a few days over there. And then I'm celebrating Christmas at home, family coming in. And taking January off. Much needed.
Good for you. Well, if you could grease some wheels, if we could have a conversation with Heather about Como and have her on the show. Here's what you do. When you're in Como, what you do is you live report from Como and do an interview with Heather on the show.
I can do that. I think we can figure that out on one of the days that I'm there. We'll figure something out. I'll at least have her have a little cameo, if nothing else.
That'd be hilarious. So just enjoy New York and just be safe and enjoy your days off. And obviously, we'll catch up next week after you've seen Braden Dunham and Furman and him dropping more 45-yard golazos and getting into semis and things like that. Good. Enjoy your 2 days off because I know it's going to be quick. And TKTS, I probably will try not to rip you off too much if you're going to go see a show.
Exactly. Hopefully not. All right. You guys have a good one.
Be good, Case. Kacey D, where she be? She be at LaGuardia. That's the beauty, once again, of live TV. So here's what was going on. As I was kind of looking at things in the green room as she was walking through the concourse at LaGuardia, she's literally changing cells as she's walking through the concrete. And so that's why she kind of faded out there in that one section, because she was walking in the concourse and her cell service drops. Maybe the Wi-Fi at LaGuardia was trying to fight with her to try to make sure that she could either be on or not be on, or change your Wi-Fi service or what have you. But and that was Kacey D. Kacey D. keeping her thoughts all together and being with us from LaGuardia Airport. LaGuardia Airport. That's what we do. So shout out to Kacey D. And yeah, seriously, if she can grab Heather O'Reilly for us and do an interview with Heather in Como for the show when she's there, that wouldn't stink. So we'll keep an eye on that, or at least have some fun with it while we're there. Maybe orchestrate an interview with Heather, because if Heather's going to stay there longer, we'll go ahead and have HOR and KCD on the show for us. Okay, let's get into your highlights. Since she mentioned it, we don't have World Sevens highlights because that was on DAZN, and I'd probably have to go and search those. 87 minutes of back and forth. You had a freshman keeper, as Kacey was saying, that was not the number one choice going into the season. So you end up with a lot of big saves. I think it was 9 saves in the championship, but 87 minutes scoreless. Then you end up with this moment off a corner. And here's how it happened. Once again, courtesy of ESPNU and the NCAA. Jen Hildreth and Kacey D on the call, goalless. And then Florida State gets one on the board.
And here comes the corner for Florida State. Is this where a difference is made? Hudson won it in the air. McGrew. Ball still bouncing in front of the goal. The Seminoles, with 3 minutes on the clock, find their way in front of this national championship game.
And this comes at such a critical moment for Florida State. It's on the resurface. Stanford cannot believe it, but Rihanna Hudson is the hero here at the end of the second half so far. This resurface in, Taylor Suarez hits on the first time. It gets across. She pulls it back away. Give credit to Jordan Dudley as well, coming across, distracting on the near post. Rihanna Hudson gets her feet shuffled, ready to go, puts it in for the go-ahead goal.
My goodness, the sophomore had the game winner in the semifinal on Friday night for Florida State, and now Florida State's goal-scoring leader all season long has the Seminoles in front with 3 minutes to play, that far away from a national championship.
So we go 2 minutes and 47 seconds, and we have the discussion inside the 18. Was it a handball? Play happens. Where are we going? What are we doing? And we mentioned that Rashawn Clark, once again, looked at it. One lockdown, you're good. It wasn't something that was like 3 and 4 minutes down and to the right, magic loogie, none of that stuff. You had VAR. Here's the play and the subsequent review. Once again, courtesy of the NCAA and ESPNU. 13 seconds on the clock, chasing an equalizer. Here's what happened.
Lead. Make it stand for a 5th national championship for Florida State. It's flicked on. It's there in front of the goal. Stanford still going for it. Everybody wondering if a whistle is coming. Rashawn Clark says no, but now what do we have? He's going to look at it. Was there a foul on this play? Florida State withstood a video review in the semifinal as to whether or not there had been a handball in the box. They deemed it was not a handball, did not have to face a penalty from TCU. What about now?
We'll take a look at it here. And, it looks like Kohler gets into that point, getting between the defenders. Does she get a touch on that ball between the two defenders of Gilchrist and McCormack? That is going to be what our referee is looking at. Does Kohler get there first and initiate it as she's going towards goal?
Who do you think commits the foul? McCormack? Gilchrist?
So we take a look at it here. It looks like it's I can't tell. It might even be Evans as well. You got to see who hits that back leg. That left leg of Kohler is what causes it to go down. She does touch it with her right knee there. Is it Gilchrist on the contact coming into this moment? If she contacts that back leg, I think you're looking at both of those pieces of this play. Does Kohler get there first, and then there is contact from a Florida State defender to knock her down?
What do you think?
Oh, man.
No, it was
close.
not called a penalty on the field. That's important to note.
It is. So it has to be clear and obvious for this overturn. I do think Kohler gets there first. They have to distinguish, was it Gilchrist that causes her to go down? Or another player for Florida State for that matter. But right there's an intervention with her body.
After review, final decision, no penalty.
So you end up with that as the final decision with 13 seconds to go. And Florida State survives Stanford by the score of 1-0. Once again, later on in the week, we have semifinals and finals, which reminds me, I probably should be efforting if we're going to try and track down our old friend Braden Dunham, who is looking at the possibility of a championship in Greenville, South Carolina. So looking at the bracket on the men's side, once again, it's in Cary, and it's going to be on the semifinals are on the 12th, Friday. Monday night, 7 o'clock, you have your national championship. The two games, Furman and Washington. Braden Dunham with the absolute golazo to get them into the semis. Dropped a bomb from 45, saw the keeper off his line, got it into the far corner from just shy of the halfway line. So Furman goes in as a 16 seed. They're going to go up against Washington. That's the early game in Cary. Then in the semis at 8:30, or I guess a half hour after the match is over, St. Louis and NC State. So you have two unranked teams, and you have a 15 and a 16 that are going to be chasing after titles in Cary, North Carolina, coming up this weekend in Division I. So Division I, you end up with Furman, a 16, NC State, a 15. Furman taking on Washington in your early, St. Louis, the Billikens, taking on NC State, the 15. I've always wondered what a Billiken is. So, because you have the headshot, and you're wondering what a Billiken actually is. Billiken, St. Louis University. So now that I'm staring at it, what is a Billiken? Please tell me what a Billiken is, if anybody can let me know. What is a Billiken? Thank you, St. Louis University. Let's see, a symbol of good luck on campus around the world. So a mythical good luck figure who represents things as they ought to be. Reproduced as dolls, marshmallow candies, a bunch of different things. To buy a Billiken gives the purchaser luck, but to have one given to you is better luck, according to St. Louis. No one is exactly sure when the Billiken first became linked to SLU. Several popular stories tie the Billiken to John Bender, a law student. I know a different John Bender who was not a law student, who took over coaching St. Louis's football team in 1910, and his resemblance to the cheery good luck symbol. According to one, a cartoonist drew a caricature of the coach in the form of a Billiken and posted it in the window of a local drugstore. The football team soon became known as Bender's Billikens. Another version of the story says that Billy Gunn, who ran a drugstore near St. Louis University, was responsible for linking the Billiken to SLU. According to a 1946 obituary, quote, Coach Bender walked into Mr. Gunn's drugstore one afternoon, was greeted by the proprietor with, Bender, you're a real Billiken. William O'Connor, and a noted sports writer who was there, took the name up for Bender, and eventually the university teams became known as the Billikens. Who invented the Billiken? Florence Pretz, a Missouri art teacher and illustrator, patented her, quote, design for an image, end quote, of the Billiken in 1908. Later told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, I concluded if there's a chance that we shape our own lives and my clay was mine to fashion as I would, I might as well make an image which embodied hope and happiness to sort of live up to, end quote. It's believed that Pretz found the name Billiken in a poem by the Canadian poet Bliss Carman and gave the name to her patented design, which she sold to the Billiken Company of Chicago. It's not confirmed if the firm acquired its name from the Billiken or if it was an established name before the company bought the rights from Pretz's invention. Only university to claim the Billiken as a mascot. In Osaka, Japan, a wooden Billiken statue sits in Sutenkaku Tower, where visitors rub his feet for good luck. In Alaska, the Inuit render the Billiken in carvings as good luck charms. In Argentina, it is the name of the world's longest-running children's magazine. And on the south side of Chicago, the school year can't start without the annual Bud Billiken Parade. I had no earthly idea about any of that stuff. No clue whatsoever. None. No idea. So, literally you're sitting there and you're wondering about things and you find out that is, in fact, how it is. The more you know. I'll be darned. Okay. Now we know about Billikens and St. Louis University as they're chasing after a men's soccer championship on the weekend coming up. And so there you go. And so you have, I get breaking news here. Hang on just a second. And it has to do with the FIFA. We also have some more breaking news involving Major League Soccer. FC Dallas has acquired CF Montreal's number 3 overall pick in the 26 Super Draft via trade. Dallas last held a number 3 pick in 24, selecting forward Logan Farrington from our friend Edwin Pintor over in Dallas. Dallas announced it acquired CF Montreal's number 3 overall pick. Obviously, they have somebody earmarked, as well as Toronto FC's natural third-round pick, number 66 overall, that Montreal obtained in July of 25. In exchange, Dallas sent $350,000 in GAM, $175,000 in 26, and $175,000 in 27, and their second-round pick, the number 46 overall in the Super Draft. Dallas now holds 3 first-round picks and 1 third-round pick in the Super Draft, which is 9 days from today, Thursday the 18th. So once again, recapping, Dallas trades gets the number 3 overall pick in the Super Draft and Toronto's natural third. In return, $350,000 in GAM spread out over 2 years, and their second-round pick in the 26 Super Draft. So that's the news out of that. So also, the other breaking news out of the Guardian this morning, Adam Crafton as of about 90 minutes ago. Quote, an official complaint has been submitted to FIFA's ethics committee alleging, quote, repeated breaches of FIFA's duty of political neutrality by its president and requesting an investigation into the process that got into the awarding of the inaugural Peace Prize. Complaint has been made by Fair Square, a nonprofit organization and advocacy group, which focuses mainly on global labor migration rights, political repression, and sport. In the sporting realm, the organization says it promotes, quote, better, more democratic governance to prevent sporting institutions contributing to harm and suffering, end quote. 8-page letter reviewed by the Athletics, submitted to the ethics committee and to the communications team back on Monday. The self-titled, according to FIFA, FIFA's self-titled, according to Crafton, Independent Ethics Committee is one of the judicial bodies and, according to World Soccer's governing body, primarily responsible for investigating possible infringements of the Code of Ethics. Investigatory and adjudicatory chambers. The investigatory chamber has representation from Rwanda, China, Canada, Malaysia, Greece, Kenya, Argentina, Vanuatu, and Panama. The 9-person committee is chaired by Rwandan Martin Ngoga, who is also the permanent representative of Rwanda to the UN. Sanctioning powers for breaches of any of FIFA's rules and regulations can include a warning, reprimand, fine, compliance training, and a ban on taking part in any football-related activity. The Fair Square complaint details 4 alleged breaches by Infantino of FIFA's duty of neutrality as outlined in Article 15 of the Code of Ethics, all in relation to the public championing of the president, of the current president of the United States. Also requests the Ethics Committee investigate circumstances surrounding the decision to introduce and award a FIFA Peace Prize and their conformity with FIFA's procedural rules. FIFA did not obviously respond to a request for comment. According to the complaint, Gianni Infantino has, quote, committed 4 clear breaches of FIFA's duty to neutrality. In FIFA's statutes, it says FIFA remains neutral in matters of politics and religion, end quote. Code of Ethics also, quote, requires that all persons bound by the code remain politically neutral in dealings with government institutions. So another alleged breach took place November 5 when Infantino was interviewed at the American Business Forum in Miami. Submission records by Fair Square have Gianni Infantino saying that he considered the President of the United States a real close friend. And the FIFA president said on the stage, and they have a quote there, a couple of paragraphs. Fair Square argues in making that statement, a particular statement, Infantino took a very clear political position, and it says any reasonable interpretation of the comments would conclude that he encouraged people to support political agendas and express personal approval of those political agendas. Fair Square adds, quote, furthermore, there can be no suggestion these statements were made in his private capacity since Mr. Infantino was appearing at a public event in his role as FIFA president, end quote. Then you also allege in the complaint that breaches took place during the World Cup draw, and it was because of the introduction. And in some of those instances, disputed role. Fair Square notes that Infantino, in the conversation, they focus on the conversation he had on the stage, discussing the complaint. Final refers to a short video from January 20 of this year, thanking the president for inviting him to Washington, D.C. So Fair Square has 4 complaints. Final submission is an ethics committee investigation into the circumstances surrounding the creation of the award. So you have those particular instances from Fair Square, and they have filed a complaint with the submitted a complaint to the ethics committee for FIFA. So that comes from Adam Crafton as of about 90 minutes ago. So that's where that stands. Also, getting into other things. Erstwhile Hank. Nope, erstwhile Hank, this is not going to work for you, sir. So erstwhile Hank thinks that he can get away with something. So we're going to block erstwhile Hank I4U. And then we're going to report erstwhile Hank I4U. So bot, I think you can get a bot in here. That's not going to happen. So that there, viewer solicitation spot. 23 characters, submit report. There we go. Okay. Getting back to where we were in discussing championships, NAIA has men's and women's champs. And we'll start with the ladies. Like I said, we believe in chivalry here. So that's what we're doing. Thank you for submitting your report. There you go. It's being reviewed. So in the women's side of the NAIA, it was an opportunity for Kaiser to add another title to their dossier and the big red banner, trying to get it to go back to West Palm Beach. So it was number 13 seed Cumberlands of Kentucky, number 14 seed Kaiser of Florida out of the Sun Conference. Patriots and Seahawks have had red banners before. Seahawks were looking for their third. Cumberland's looking for their second. Season's also the first time ever in NAIA women's soccer history that two double-digit seeds were playing for the title. Kaiser, claiming their third championship, also got the first time ever a double-digit seed won the red banner. Well, it's going to happen either way, but it ends up with Kaiser getting the Duke. 1-1 through the final 15 minutes of regulation, goes into the two goes through the two overtimes. Nothing happens. They go to PKs. We'll play the end of the PKs coming up in just a bit. So early on, 4 minutes into the match, Nicole Arujo swings in across. Carola Fontan gets it into the back of the net, and Cumberlands get a quick 1-0 lead. So Patriots continue pushing in the first half. Fontan had a great look in the 22nd. Mio Tanaka, the Kaiser keeper, was there to punch it away, and it kept it at 1-0. Kaiser tried to even things up around the 30-minute mark, and the first 45 dwindling down. Cumberland's had a couple of clean looks from goal from Laura Bosca and Fontan, but once again, Tanaka kept the margin at 1. After the first 45, Patriots have all category leads. Shots 8-6, shots on target 6-2, corners 2-1. Mio Tanaka busy, 5 saves compared to UC's keeper Morgan White, who only made 2 at the time in the first 45. Kaiser had worked 4 subs into the lineup in the first 45. Cumberland's working 3. Then in the second half, wind at their back. Seahawks working a little harder into the offensive third. 3 chances on goal, Lauren Riley and Georgia Little from set pieces. But then once again, Morgan White comes up big after 60 minutes. Then tied in the 72nd, Ruby Vernon connects with Blanca Bacci. Bacci goes from 14 just inside the 18, tying it at 1. They almost scored in the 75th, stepping in front of a shot, keeping the match at 1-1. Carola Fontan awarded Most Outstanding Offensive Player of the Tournament. Georgia Little of Kaiser, Most Outstanding Defensive Player of the Tournament. 2025 NAIA Championship MVP goes to Lauren Riley of the Seahawks. So let's get you into 1-1 after 90, 1-1 after 120. And so that means you got to go to PKs. Here's how the PKs wrapped up, courtesy of the NAIA and the Urban Edge Network.
Now Rouge assured to the right. They've tied it at 2, but we haven't cleared the 4th round. The Seahawks sending Haley Miller. Second team, all-conference selection. The freshman out of San Diego, California, places the ball on the spot. Miller. It's saved, but trickles in. White got gloves to it, but Miller just enough to push it over the line. Do or don't time for the Patriots. A save by Preeb gives the Seahawks the championship. On the spot for Inez Martin Garcia. And saved! The first action of Preeb in the tournament is a giant save that sends the Seahawks, national finalists last year, hoisting the red banner.
So they get the red banner, winning in PKs. Numbers at the end of the year, Kaiser getting their 3rd. And then the NAIA, where you have a banner that goes into the rafters and it's normally like team colors or something. In the NAIA, everybody talks about the red banner. And it's something that goes back to their time early in when they were based in Kansas City, and all the basketball tournaments go to Kansas City, and it's a big deal at the Memorial Auditorium. In the NAIA, instead of creating your own banner or having a banner given to you by the NCAA, the NAIA has literally a red banner that has the year, the sport, and the designation of a champion. You hang that banner that is given to you by the NAIA. You hang that banner in your rafters instead of having to create one that is of your own colors that we're used to seeing in rafters in other sports. The NAIA gives you a red banner for the sport that you win. So Kaiser gets their third red banner, record of 20-3-1. 20 wins, three draws, and 1 loss. Cumberland's wraps up their season 17-5-3, 37 shots total. Seahawks got 25 of them over 110 minutes, so it was 90 plus 20. And then KU also led in corners 7-3. You had Morgan White, 14 saves along the way. And all tournament honors. Morgan White, one of the two keepers. Marley Fonseca from John Brown is the other. Marta Carrasco Mesa from Missouri Valley on defense, along with Georgia Little from Kaiser. Natalia Sepulveda from Embry-Riddle of Arizona. Samantha Sokolov from Cumberlands of Kentucky, along with her teammate Carla Fontan in the midfield. Other midfielders, Judith Ferre from Missouri Valley, Nicola Rujo from Cumberlands. Isabel Semino from Oklahoma Wesleyan is your other midfielder. Lauren Riley and Maria Villena from Kaiser, your forwards. Aubrey Winter from John Brown, and Jamie Brandon from Embry-Riddle of Arizona. So that's the women's side of the tournament, chasing after a championship in Pensacola at Ashton Brosnahan. Now, on the men's side, yesterday we had a new coach come in and hang out with us, and it was David Groves of Grandview. Came in and answered the bell from his hotel room. He'd been in the hotel for like 10 days, and it sounded like he's pretty much over it and ready to play the last game of the year and go home. And it was a matchup in Orange Beach against West Virginia. I did it again. WVU Tech, West Virginia University Technological Institute. So it's not WVUIT, it's WVU Tech. And so WVU Tech and Grandview was the visitors in this one. And it was an opportunity for Grandview to chase after a championship, and it was an opportunity for WVU Tech in a historic season for them. Grandview chasing after their first ever red banner, WVU Tech chasing after theirs as well. And so it was 13th out of 14 teams out of the Heart of America Athletic Conference preseason poll. That was Grandview. So Grandview voted next to last when the season started, kind of like San Diego FC, voted next to last in their own conference. And we got to catch up with Coach Groves about just how tough Heart of America actually is. They get through that conference. They make their way all the way to the last game of the year. And so WVU Tech comes in undefeated. They were 20 wins and 2 draws. Coming in for Grandview, they were 17-4-3 coming in. So WVU scores in the 5th minute. Lenny Duperret from Keyshawn Clark, and so the Golden Bears go up early. So 9 minutes later, you have this moment to tie things up at 1 with WVU Tech with the lead until right here. Courtesy, once again, Urban Edge Network and the NAIA.
Now Chapman cross header, it's in! Grandview's found an equalizer! A great ball by Peyton Chapman.
So Peyton Chapman with the early work, and you end up getting the match level. Ignacio Gonzalez converts from Chapman, 14th minute, 1-1. And so first half and into the second half stayed at 1-1 at the interval, heading into the second half. And then 14 minutes into the second half, you have this moment for Grandview as Grandview would take the lead.
Making his 38th appearance for his hometown team. Whipped in, back post, clatters through, and shot for Romo! His second goal in as many matches.
Herman Farumo in the 59th off a set piece Vikings go up 2-1. Unassisted, Grandview once again limits WVU's attempts to push forward, closing out the match with that 2-1 margin. So they go through the final 30, don't give up another goal. 2-1, your final. Grandview gets their first ever red banner. So 21-6 total shots, 10-6 in corners, 9-6 on shots on target. So every shot on target, every shot that was taken by WVU Tech was on target. 21 shots on the day for Grandview, and they end up with 9 of them on target. Louis Helm anchored the defense with 5 saves for Grandview, conceding only 1 goal in all of postseason. Now that's pretty stout. That's pretty stout. You only give up 1 goal your entire postseason run, 4 clean sheets in 5 matches, 5 matches in like 10 days, and you end up getting the red banner. So 5-0 performance national tournament. You knock off 5 ranked opponents, including number 1 and top-ranked Bethel of Tennessee, outscoring their postseason opposition 7-1. So you only give up the 1 goal, scoring when you need to, doing well with defense. Once again, go back and you can listen to our conversation that we had with Coach Groves yesterday, kind of setting up the championship. And we hope that they are making their way home safely out of Orange Beach and heading back to Grandview's campus, Vikings campus there in Ottawa. So you look at, once again, Grandview getting their 19th red banner for the school in all comps, first ever when it comes to men's soccer. So coming out of that upper left bracket, you had Grandview, who was unranked, knock off Indiana Wesley in the 16, knock off Bethel, the number 1, knock off Georgia Gwinnett, and that was why I got to ask about Coach DeCou and everything that that Grandview and Coach Groves got to see about GGC. Couldn't have spoken any more highly about Coach DeCou. Then in the semis, it was winning over Cumberland's. Then the final over WVU Tech 2-1. 7-1 in 5 matches. You only give up 1 goal the entire competition that you're down there in Orange Beach. Well-deserved title for Grandview. And once again, it reinforces the SDH bump for anyone who might be doubting it. The SDH bump was there for Grandview. They came on. Coach Groves comes on, talks about everything from Western Michigan to Grandview and Grandview, Iowa, and the heart of American, and you end up with a championship for Grandview. They get to take it back to Grandview, Iowa from Orange Beach, Alabama, and they are your winners by the final score of 2-1. So fantastic win for Grandview, great win for Kaiser. Grandview gets their first, Kaiser gets their third on the women's side, and that puts an end to the NAIA season when it comes to soccer. A couple of other things, news and notes and things that might have drifted by the wayside before we get out of here. And once again, tomorrow might be a show, might not. Once again, it just depends on busy and all that kind of stuff this time of year. But we will have an interview up on the network from the Vancouver 2026 host committee. We're going to catch up with their lead and find out about the big day they had yesterday, find out where they are in their process, find out about manpower. And it's our continuing series that we have with all of the host cities as they prepare for the World Cup, how things are going, what their challenges are that are still on the board, and how they're tackling them, what the timetables are, capital investment, legacy projects, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be getting into that with Vancouver later today. And that will be available late tonight on socials. It'll be available tomorrow on social media platforms as well. So don't forget to add our notifications to all of your notifications that you get on social media. So it's just one of those interviews that we're trying to get with each host city at least twice before the tournament starts. So we get this first walk in the door, we get the update before the tournament goes, and then after the tournament, get a bit of a post-mortem to find out lessons that they've learned and so on. We'll be doing that in August and September of 26. But we're going to be catching up with Vancouver today to add to our conversation that we had with Toronto a couple weeks ago. And so the first 2 markets that we've had are Canadian markets. And we're reaching out to everybody, and we do have conversations going with other markets and things about when we can do this and how we can do it. We're trying to get as many of them wrapped up before Christmas as possible so we can have those kinds of conversations with us too. So Vancouver later today, find out about Vancouver as a host city, and we'll be ready to go with them. And you'll get that conversation either later tonight or tomorrow as a part of our midweek programming I'll be back on Thursday. Glenn Davis joining us, batting leadoff. Nino and Nico in the Power Hour at 10 and 10:30. Danny Leyva transferred to Liga MX. We'll discuss that with Nico and anything else that's on his mind as we get closer to training camps, which are probably about a month away. Month or 6 weeks. But remember, this week it is free agency, it is waivers, it is reentry, and that process starts in Major League Soccer. So we've got to keep an eye on that too. We'll be discussing that with Nico Moreno on Thursday for starters, and then as we kind of go through the process. So Glenn Davis, Nino, and Nico on Thursday. Set your notifications for programming on Wednesday, and then Friday back at it. Catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, and we'll get you ready for the weekend there as well across all the platforms and get you caught up from what happened in Europa League, Europa Conference League, all the things, all the news, and get you ready for the weekend NCAA championships. Like I said, we're efforting Braden Dunham and catching up with as many of the clubs as we can, getting into the tournament of itself. And if we can turn Friday into a tournament Friday, we'll certainly try and do that. So that's kind of where we are with all of the stuff. So World Cup hydration breaks, you got that to look at. 3 minutes, and it's going to be 3 minutes each. Doesn't matter if you're indoors or outdoors. You're going to end up with 3-minute hydration breaks. Yes, you're going to have commercials rolling in, but what else is going on? It will be an opportunity for the host broadcasters to sell ad space. And for those of you that have like Red Zone, NFL Network Red Zone channel with Scott Hansen, they have started doing squeeze backs. And I know that when you're doing live American football, it's probably a little bit more difficult to try and fit in a time to where you're running an ad and have a double box up with kind of looking at a game and a commercial going. So you have commercial audio and a double box with the games that you're looking at on Red Zone. With soccer, it's a lot easier. It's a 3-minute break for hydration. So literally what you do, you toss the break, you toss to, the hydration break, go to the squeeze back, double box, run 2 ads. And so by then you probably have maybe 1:45, maybe a minute and a half to kind of talk about things to that point. If you're in the booth, that commercial break / hydration break creates that window for you. And it's uniform, so it happens everywhere. So you're watching a game, it's going to happen. Might be a little bit boring in the stadium because you know that hydration break is coming at the halfway point. It's a natural time for a commercial break to happen. So it's coming. I will just be interested to see how long that's going to be a pushback double box. And you end up with commercial. Is it going to take up 90 seconds? And then you come back with about 1:15 for the booth and the analyst to sit there and figure out what they're going to talk about. So you're setting up the last minute. What are they talking about? All that kind of stuff. Then 15 seconds in, you get ready for action, and then you go. So that really is the only question I have. I don't mind it. I get it just because of the commercialized universe that we're in when it comes to television. But this 3-minute hydration break gives you that opportunity to pull back the doubles. And it gives the advertisers a chance to have space. And you have the opportunity for play-by-play in color not to say anything. And they can think about things for a minute and a half, bring everybody back, get you going. Instead of having to fill for 3 minutes, take the time, go to commercials. I get it. I understand what's going on. So not necessarily a real shock that something like that would be going on. And it's going to be starting in this tournament. Real Madrid looks like they're lining up the star power. If Xabi Alonso and Real Madrid do not win in Champions League this week, there's talk that he might be out, which would be a mistake. And so now you're looking at what? Who could be? Arbeloa is probably your reserve team coach. He probably would be your short term. And then Zidane, maybe Klopp. Everybody's going to say Klopp. Everybody's going to say Zidane. It's got to be a shiny object. It has to be a shiny object and somebody that wants to be back and that can handle all that ish. But who can handle it? I mean, who wants to go in there and handle it? Who's on the big? I know Big Sam would probably send his CV. But, it's big names, and it's going to start with Arbeloa, and you bring back Zidane, all that kind of stuff. I know that this is the way it should be, but you need to be patient. Be patient with Xabi Alonso. But I know that's not how they're wired. If Madrid lose at home to Manchester City, there is strong talk that Xabi Alonso could be gone. And then, of course, obviously, you have the angst with Vinicius Jr. that's attached to that. So we'll see really what the end result is. But the biggest, I think, the next marker in that for Xabi Alonso is tomorrow, losing to Manchester City, and then it's going to be tiki torches and pitchforks and the whole thing. So yesterday, Wolves and Manchester United. Do not be surprised if you end up with a 3D somewhat soon, but Manchester United took care of business, knocking off Wolves 4-1. Had a 1-0 lead, tied at 1. It's the first time that Wolves had scored in 9 hours. I'm not kidding. Over 540 minutes of not scoring. 540 minutes of game time that you end up not scoring, finally scoring. You're tied at 1. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. The world's coming to an end. And then Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes. The first goal that was scored, I'd go back and watch it. But, yeah, it was awful. And it was kind of stumbling over your own self if you're Manchester United and really stumbling over both Manchester United and yourself if you were at Wolves. 4-1 final. And Bruno Fernandes gets credit for it. And so there you go. Eder Militao against Celta de Vigo could be gone for as much as 4 months. Spurs' Thomas Frank declined to comment on photographs allegedly showing Yves Bissouma using nitrous. Bissouma banned by the club for 1 game last year after posting social media video of him appearing to inhale the gas. Remember Mo Salah not on this trip for Liverpool, being left at home. So then what you have is a cooling off period. And that's the way it's being worded. It is not punishment of Salah by Slut and the hierarchy at Liverpool. It's a cooling off period. And so also you're going to have Mo Salah heading to AFCON with Egypt after the match with Brighton on Saturday. When he was asked about it, Arne Slot had said he had no clue if Salah would play for Liverpool again. Quote, usually I'm calm and polite, but that doesn't mean I am weak. It's about me and us as a club to react. We acted in a way you can see. He's not here. And so will Mo Salah play for Liverpool again? I think it was Al Ittihad and Al Hilal that we're chasing right now out of the Saudi Pro. But to Jason's point last night, you're pretty much going to put Salah wherever. If you're in the Saudi Pro and it's a PIF franchise, you're going to go wherever you're wanted. We're going to plug him in here. And so that's how that's going to drop down with Mo Salah. I think there's going to be a January transfer. I really do. That's just me. Like I said, no basis in fact or anything, but I just have the idea that is going to go down. Keep an eye on that. Looks like Gio Reyna might be having a bit of progress at Borussia Mönchengladbach. Jamie Vardy at Cremonese gave their first one over Bologna in 34 years with a goal. And so then you have those particular things going on. Let's see. Lionel Messi named 2025 Landon Donovan MLS MVP for a second consecutive year. Portland has a new dance partner on the front of the jersey, Bank of America. And let's see if there's other news that is out there that we can look at really quickly before we go on the day. Once again, Champions League going on right now. Kairat Almaty and Olympiacos on Paramount Plus. You've got the one match at 12:30, 12:45, and then everybody else is at 3 o'clock. So let's see. Also on the board, the news is finally final on Noah Cobb. Atlanta United releasing that it has acquired $525 in allocation money, $275 in 26, $250 in 27, as the Rapids exercised a permanent trade option on Noah Cobb. They can also receive up to an additional $250 if performance-based incentives are met. Atlanta would receive a percentage of a future transfer. So it's $525 in GAM, plus possibly another $250 in incentives and a sell-on fee. So all of that for Noah Cobb, and Colorado picked up the option. So Gammon 26, Gammon 27, performance metrics, and a sell-on. So that's where Noah Cobb officially has gone with that. Roster moves for NYCFC 2, and 7 players had their options picked up. 5 have been released. 1 defender out of contract. So right now they have a roster of 9 before they figure out who's going to be going where for 2026. Lou City is going to be launching a USL League 2 team in 2026 as they continue to add to their portfolio. Charleston Battery have signed Wilmer Cabrera Jr. to a multi-year deal, pending league and federation approval, set to bolster the offense into the 26th season. Last year, had a year-and-a-half stint with El Paso Locomotive with his dad, 13-4 in 41 matches across all comps, 2025 leading scorer in league play with 10 goals, 14 goal contributions, and so the hat trick against New Mexico United got him Player of the Week honors back in 2025. So Wilmer Cabrera Jr. is now heading to Charleston. Yesterday, we mentioned Danny Leyva. We'll talk about this with Nico Moreno on Thursday. 107 appearances across all comps, transferred to Necaxa of Liga MX at the age of 22, coming off a career-high 6 assists and 26 appearances. Terms of the transfer agreement not publicly being disclosed. So that's the news from this morning that we have going on in all of the competitions and all the places and all the things. So once again, remember, Champions League all day, Paramount Plus, 10:30, 12:45, and 3. And then you have UEFA Women's Champions League going on, Championship QPR in Birmingham City. And so it now also appears that Neymar was off to have surgery on that torn meniscus. Contract is up, rehab ahead of him. And the question now is, Carlo Ancelotti going to have him be a part of the Brazilian squad that's going to go into the World Cup. So we'll absolutely see what it looks like there with Neymar, Santos, his future, and the Brazilian national team heading into the World Cup. Funny chance if you're outside of Wolves, but not necessarily funny if you are. Watching the worst team in England, they were chants from the supporters, shall we go in? Do we have to? Shall we go in? Do we have to? That's what the fans at Wolves were at Molineux yesterday. So there's all of that going on. Okay. Once again, tomorrow, keep an eye out on your notifications. Might be a show, might not. Just depends on busyness and all those kinds of things. So if there's a show, just keep an eye out on your socials. If not, you'll have notifications set up for the Vancouver 2026 interview that we're doing later today. It's going to be posted to our network. Thursday, Glenn Davis, 9:05, Power Hour at 10 o'clock, Nino and Nico to get you through the world, get you through Major League Soccer as we start free agency, start waivers, reentry, all those things. So the postseason and all the jostling, that starts up as well on Thursday. So we'll see on Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll see what it looks like there. You have Tom Bogert has put out a piece quickly about the best players that are on the board for free agency. And his top 10 to keep an eye on. Christian Espinoza from San Jose. San Jose made an offer to keep him, and MLS clubs can offer him up to 90% of that offer. So you've got Espinoza, Dane St. Clair from Minnesota United, Christian Benteke in D.C., free agent after having the 26 contract option declined, and he announced on his own platforms and his own social that he was leaving. He's going to take a max TAM deal. Going to be getting a lot of offers. Just turned 35, 49 goals for DC after arriving in 22. Justin Hackett, center back, was a poet, didn't know it. Career best season. Started all 34 games from NYCFC and 5 postseason matches. Ironman for the team that went to the final. So half of the clubs in Major League Soccer, according to Tommy Scoops, have clear interest in signing him. And so interest from Europe as well. Carlos Cornell, remember, he's in play after Red Bulls declined. His contract expired, and they didn't want anything to do with bringing him back. 29 this month, probably going to take a decent paycheck. Walker Zimmerman, Defender of the Year twice. You know that he's going to want a large number attached to any kind of check. But do the injuries and those concerns, do they counteract that? Dallas, Toronto, perhaps, going back home. But how concerned are you about having Zimmerman on the shelf with the veteran presence and the paycheck that would definitely be sought? Paul Rothrock, that's another one. And Rothrock being a part of this 10, which we probably will revisit with Nico on Thursday. Paul Rothrock's probably going to want something in that 800,000 range, which is what Nico had been talking about. Hassani Dotson, Minnesota United, is on the list, out of contract, available. 2019 Super Draft pickup for Minnesota United, 176 appearances. Robin Lod, Minnesota United, remain in talks with Minnesota United, but Lod could be out there. Sean Johnson is out there. That was one of the early releases from Toronto. When season was over, they put their numbers and their names out. Sean Johnson right there on it. So then you look at Gillespie, Willis, and Crepeau, Dario Zupric, Julio Cascante at center back. Then this is Tommy Scoop's list. Brooks Lennon, Brandon By at fullback. Mark Anthony Kaye, Joao Paulo, defensive midfield. Attacking midfielders, Eric Tommy, Bryce Duke, Eric Williamson, Yu Yakubo, Jarrett Smith very high on Yu Yakubo, and Sebastian Lletget. Wingers, Fagundes, Corey Baird, Fafa Pico. Center forwards, Willie Agata, Joseph, and Michael Ua. And so those are the names that are out there for free agency when that kicks in. And so on the flip side of the midweek, we'll start to discuss all of that. And like I said, we'll probably talk to Nico Moreno about it to start things off on Thursday. So that's another go-round of SDH AM. Thanks to KCD for joining us in LaGuardia. Thanks to Chris Doran, who joined us from Columbus to discuss Wilfried Nancy, everything crew, all those things. Thanks to the NAIA, thanks to the NCAA, and discussing highlights and all the things. We have champs in the NAIA. We have a champ in the NCAA Division I women, and we're waiting for champs in NCAA Division I men. That's going to start the semifinals this weekend on your Friday. Like I said, thanks for hanging out with us. We couldn't do it without you. We'll be back at it again, at the very least, on Thursday morning with Glenn Davis and the Power Hour. Like I said, set your notifications. We'll have programming up if we don't do a show in the morning. And I've got to go to Mercedes-Benz because that's when championship stuff starts, catching up with coaches, get the tour of the stadium and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're up to tomorrow. So just keep an eye out on your notifications. If we don't have a show, then we'll be back on Thursday. If we do have a show, then it'll be Jason navigating with our standard guests plus the content that we have from Vancouver. So for everybody here, to all of you there, thanks for dropping by for another go-round of SDH AM. Since it's the end of the show, you know what that means. I get to do this. Mucha plats, y'all. Back at it again this week, 9:05. Set your notifications. We'll see you soon.